The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that. Our original stream messed up, and we're in the process of fixing everything. So we do apologize. But nonetheless, we are here and we are back. And welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, June 18th, and today is a National Wanna Get Away Day.
Every day.
Like that? I need a fucking vacation.
I need a vacation.
Mama, what's a vacation?
Right?
We talked about taking a group trip yesterday, and it all went to hell. So, you know.
Oh, that's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm down. I'm down to take a group trip. I think that would be really.
Jason, you go everywhere I go already.
Do I? I don't know.
It's a symbiotic relationship, right?
I know, right?
That sounds like a whole bunch of fake news to me, Dale.
You know what else today is, Jason?
What's that, Jenny Beth?
It's my friend Rydell's wife's birthday. Happy birthday to her.
Well, happy birthday, friend Rydell's wife.
What else you got, Jason?
Well, today is also National Splurge Day today.
Fuck, I celebrate that year round. I was supposed to do it on one day.
Mm-hmm. Today is the day to splurge.
Shit.
Splurging, you know what I'm saying? Then what do we have next? It's also National Go Fishing Day today, you guys.
There you go.
I would like that one.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's all the days that we have today. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, you guys. And we are going to kick it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track when they have been victims of the track. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
All right. Good morning. Happy hump day, everybody. So, the Drug Enforcement Administration is under fire for obstructing federally regulated cannabis research, while, ironically, illegal grows potentially tied to foreign entities continue to thrive. A new investigation reveals that the DEA has repeatedly delayed or denied legitimate pharmaceutical-grade cannabis research applications managed by MMJ Biopharma Cultivation, stalling FDA-sanctioned studies for over 2,300 days, despite internal policy mandating support and expedited processing for Schedule I research. Documents show the agency's Diversion Control Division, led by Deputy Administrator Matthew he's a cop, I don't care if I mispronounce it, Proboznik, is ignoring its own rule. One policy states the DEA fully supports bona fide research and will expedite any applications. Another allows unregistered brokers to manage internal shipments, yet the DEA targets compliant research while turning a blind eye to large-scale unregulated operations. That sounds like snitching because they're upset they didn't get their grant, so that still doesn't make that right, you guys. Adding fuel to the fire, law enforcement agencies have uncovered illegal cannabis grow ops, some reportedly linked to transnational groups, sprouting unchecked. Meanwhile, the DEA keeps FDA-approved studies on ice. Critics accuse the DEA of suppression, citing violations of the Medical Marijuana and Cannabidiol Research Expansion Act and defying federal court rulings. They argue the agency is putting bureaucracy ahead of science and patient welfare. Now, as Terry Cole faces Senate confirmation as the new DEA administrator, advocates say he must overhaul the agency's approach, starting with enforcing internal rules on research, auditing all denied applications since 2018, and restoring MMJ Biopharma's stalled registration. That's the latest on how DEA policies are impeding cannabis science, and even as illegal grows flourish in plain sight. All right, so a couple things here. One, boo to you, MMJ Biopharma, because those things are not mutually exclusive. Your pharmaceutical research and somebody growing as a trap grow has nothing to do with each other. Okay, just so we're fucking clear. Snitching on somebody, pissing on somebody else's grass is not going to make yours greener. So why don't you stop snitching? Second of all, I'm totally fine with Big Pharma not being a part of things, but there is legitimate research that needs to be funded, like our good friend Dr. Mark Chaldone over at St. Michael's University. So, it's just frustrating. The DEA does need to be overhauled. They need to focus on things like fentanyl, things that are killing people, not cannabis. So if we could just go ahead and get our shit together, maybe we'll get somewhere. But this is the government, so I have a little faith. I'll throw it back to you guys. What do you think?
I mean,
There's a mindset inside the DEA that just is rabidly opposed to cannabis. Nixon greenlit him back in the early 70s to be like that. And they've been dragging their feet for, let's call it legitimate research. There's a whole lot of research around cannabis and cannabinoids that I believe needs to be done. Not because a pharmaceutical company is going to come in and capture the molecule, patent it, but because we really need to understand different components of this plant and why they do what they do. And if it's any other pharmaceutical agent, let's call it that, they would have thrown more money at this than you can even shake a stick at. But inside the DEA, and we've seen it because they've had their pants pulled down a couple of times, they refuse to accept what the outside world wants them to do. This isn't new. This isn't new.
No.
it definitely is not. I mean, it definitely not, and it's not surprising that they don't want that. That they're taking this position, stalling things out. I mean, we watched them stall the whole thing out, where Annie Milligram didn't want to sign anything in regards with rescheduling, and this is just what the DEA does. They stall, they drag their feet, they they throw a fit, and because they're not getting their way, because they want to make sure that they're maintaining asset forfeiture, because that's how they fund themselves.
I think it goes beyond asset forfeiture. If cannabis was federally legal tomorrow, right, and the DEA could no longer enforce on it, do you know how many people would have to go into retirement? Like, they've made this is easy. It's low-hanging fruit. I'd much rather, if I'm looking at this from the DEA's perspective, I'd feel much more comfortable running into some like Wook's giant grow on a mountain than I would going into somebody's giant cartel fentanyl lab. We're easy.
Yeah, they shoot back.
That's true.
They shoot back.
That's
right.
true.
They think that the cannabis industry has made the mistake of thinking that it's legal and it's safe out here, but they also look at us as safe. We're the safe, easy bus.
That is true. That is very, very true, Jenny Beth. And what's going on with all these CCCP grows, Jenny Beth, that they brought up in this story?
Don't give a damn.
A lot of bubbas growing out there. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't think that it's just that. I think there's a lot of different, foreign entities that are growing cannabis in the U.S., but I don't think that the fact that they're growing cannabis in the U.S. has any bearing on the fact that funding is not being pushed through for research.
Fair enough.
I just think that that's, that Chad's like, but the illegal people are doing it.
Yeah.
They've been doing it, and they're not going to stop because there's money to be made, and bringing weed across the border doesn't make sense anymore because you can't concentrate it like you can concentrate fentanyl or heroin or meth and pack a whole lot in. I mean, weed takes up space compared to concentrates, and it's just not economical for bubbas to stop. I mean, you can grow 30 or 50 plants in the back 40 and make some money off that. That ain't changing soon.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And on that, we are going to roll into our first commercial, and we We're going to be right back, you guys.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys. Oh, look at Jenny Beth.
No, coming up next, the high at night head honcho, the highest Republican in most rooms he walks into, Jason Beck.
Every room, Jenny Beth.
Yeah, allegedly.
Every room I walk in. Know
I'd
that.
like to
That's a
see some
fact.
quantifiable data on that, but all right.
I'll walk you in some rooms. You'll see what time it is. But nonetheless, you guys, man, oh man, Dale, I think you are going to love this one, you guys. This is an interesting one because Cookies wins $22.7 million from a partner. Fate branded cannabis stores are unknown, you guys. That's right, because Cookies, one of the most recognizable brands in the cannabis space, is set to collect $22.7 million from a nationwide retail partner that failed to pay agreed upon royalties and misused the company's recognizable intellectual property to raise capital, according to a final arbitration ruling, Dale. But that partner, a company called Cookies Retail, which owns and operates several dozen Cookies branded marijuana stores throughout the United States, is attempting to undo the ruling in court documents show, you guys. The June 2nd final award from the retired San Francisco Superior Court Judge David Garcia follows an initial February 14th ruling that awarded Cookies $18 million. The final award includes $17.8 million in damages plus $4.8 million in costs and fees in his ruling, and Garcia found that Cookies has proven both liability and damages by its requisite burdens on its fee and misuse of trademark claims. Cookies is the asset-light San Francisco Bay Area-based company, partially owned by Gilbert Malam, an entrepreneur and musician better known as Burner, that also developed the brand's iconic C in the light blue color scheme, along with highly recognizable cannabis strains. In January of 2020, Cookies signed a deal with Southern California-based Cookies Retail, better known as CRE, to open Cookies-branded marijuana stores in California, Colorado, Florida, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, and Oregon. CRE's principal is Brandon Johnson, also the CEO and co-founder of Los Angeles headquartered TRP Co. Garcia determined in his February 14th ruling that Cookies Retail is actually an alter ego of TRP. And as part of the 2020 arrangement, Cookies was to supply those stores with proprietary cannabis strains and promote them through Burner's massive Instagram following. In return, Johnson's company was to pay agreed upon royalties, but those payments largely stopped in 2021, according to claims made in arbitration. Cookies was very pleased overall with the ruling because in an emailed statement to MJ Biz Daily, Cookies president Parker Burling said the company, in quote, has been eager to be heard on this matter for some time and is very pleased with the judge's decision to increase the final award to $22.7 million in damages and fees. The situation raises questions about the future of Cookies branded stores still in TRP's portfolio, some of which Cookies indicated last year it intended to acquire. Thomas O'Connell, CRE's attorney of record, declined to comment to MJ Biz Daily, and Brandon Johnson did not return an MJ Biz Daily message seeking comment. Meanwhile, CRE is asking a second judge to overturn the arbitration ruling, claiming that Garcia overstepped his authority and alleging corruption, fraud, and undue means, according to court filings dated on June 6th. Most legal experts agree that binding arbitration awards are rarely overturned in California, and when they are, it's typically under extreme circumstances. But there's some anatomy to this dispute because, according to Garcia's ruling, Johnson helped arrange a joint venture in 2019 with Grand Ventures Fund, a venture capital firm affiliated with tech billionaire Vinnie Smith's Toba Capital. Cookies had a 20% stake in the new entity, and the rest held by Johnson and his partners in Grand. According to Garcia's ruling, the plan was for the stores to be run day to day by existing owner-operators or co-owner-operators, subject to a retail license agreement under which the stores would sell Cookies branded cannabis products alongside other brands on a non-exclusive basis. The judge added that in exchange, Cookies would receive a royalty licensing fee on the sale of Cookies branded products from the stores, and B, the contractual right to acquire or roll up each Cookies branded retail store in the future if permissible under applicable law. The first such agreement was signed on January of 2020, and however, Garcia noted that Johnson and his partners changed course in 2021 and created TRP. That same year, CRE stopped paying royalty fees despite communications confirming they were owed. And according to the arbitration ruling, CRE quit paying Cookies agreed upon royalties when the cannabis retail market softened in 2021, but CRE and TRP used Cookies intellectual property to raise separate capital without proper permission. But there's a few loose ends to tie up in this because Garcia also ordered CRE to return to Cookies a trove of documents it had acquired from Freddie Cameron, who took the documents with him when he left Cookies. Cameron was a key witness in a separate but related attempt by CRE to convince a judge that Cookies was operating as an unregistered franchise in violation of California business law. And that part of the litigation campaign that CRE launched last year after Cookies filed for arbitration. But in one lawsuit, CRE alleged that Cookies ran a franchise in violation of California law. And in a separate suit, CRE alleged Cookies reneged on an agreement that would allow an exclusive rights to operate a Cookies branded store in New York City. The legal gambits failed, according to court documents, and a judge dismissed the claim regarding the New York City store, and the Orange County franchising case was transferred to San Francisco, where the parties were bound to Garcia's arbitration ruling. It's unclear what the ruling means for the future of TRP-owned and operated stores that use Cookies' iconic intellectual property, and those would include 16 stores in Florida that Cookies Florida, a TRP affiliate, operates under a single vertically integrated medical treatment center, an MTC license that allows for unlimited retail locations. And in May of 2024, Cookies announced its intent to acquire those assets from TRP, and the status of that proposed transaction is not known. But that is all that we have for this one, you guys. Man, oh man, oh man. Cookies, 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 and more cookies. And his burner, just the cookie monster. And he's about to collect big time with $22 million plus. Man, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Yeah, now you got to collect. That's a problem. And I routinely put mandatory arbitration in my agreements because you can keep it kind of quiet. It's really difficult to overturn. It doesn't mean you can't, but it becomes difficult to overturn an arbitration award if it's mandatory binding arbitration, fraud, things like that. I also noticed in there that there was an alter ego theory, which looks like they busted through the corporate veil on one of these people. And I honestly don't know these people. I don't remember who it was, but that could be conceivably a problem because now your personal assets are at stake here. And it seems like Burner and Cookies at least has the upper hand to start with. I wouldn't give this much weight getting very far. But the reach of the courts, the arbitrator's ruling, that becomes an issue. Because if you move out of California and let's say they have a separate business entity in Colorado and in New York and in Florida, whether the arbitrator in California has jurisdiction to issue orders there, that might be a question.
That's a whole nother question, right?
Yeah, and CRE and TRP are very much, it's definitely a straw holding there of some sort, right? And honestly, CRE is terrible. Like, they've been awful to every operator they worked with. They've taken over a lot of social equity operators' facilities and absolutely screwed the owners. And I don't think that Listen, if Cookies didn't know what was up and like truly didn't know what was up, then that's really shitty because to the average bear, Cookies is Cookies, right? They don't know the difference that Cookies retail and Cookies the brand are separate entities. They don't understand that TRP is some bastard stepchild that's over here pulling the strings and hiding the money in the back. Like this is it's pretty frustrating. I mean, shout out to them, I guess, for unwinding all this because at the end of the day, I believe it was last year, maybe the year before last year, they were looking at some pretty large lawsuits, right? And Berner was absolutely going to be named in those. And, you know, like I was going to suck for Gilbert. There was a lot going on. And I think that to the naked eye, you don't understand that there are different entities behind this pulling the strings that aren't necessarily the Cookies that you know.
Very, very true.
Well, that's the case in a lot of these agreements. I mean, you set up an agreement between two companies, okay? And then they spin off other entities. And the question is what's covered. And if you're not clear enough in the agreements you have of what you actually control, and then if you dilly-dally around, let's say someone doesn't pay you for a few months, okay? How long do you wait before you say, look, bitch, we're going, you know, here's your notice of arbitration. And by the way, you're paying my attorney's fees because I typically roll those into these agreements too. Prevailing party gets attorney's fees. Why do you wait for this shit to go so south before you try to wrap your arms around it?
Right.
This is a bigger problem right now, and just these TRE being assholes. It's a bigger problem than that now, and it's going to spill over into other jurisdictions. And best place to be for this kind of problems in federal court. I don't send my clients to federal court because this is illegal, and so you're not going to get the bandwidth you would hope to get in federal court. Because if you have these companies in California and you get federal jurisdiction, it covers the entire United States. You can go to New York with orders from California. You can shut shit down. You can force them to come out to California and arbitrate this thing, litigate it, whatever. And this may be something that teaches people lessons, but for God's sakes, you should have learned this lesson a long time ago. Don't wait until the ship has left the port before you go, hang on, let's bring him back here and fix this problem. You should have been doing something about this a long time ago.
Yeah. Very, 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 very true. Dale, what do you think is going to happen with these stores in Florida? Because TRP has all these cookie stores in Florida, and it's all under one MMD license out there, and yet, you know, they don't have the right to operate under there. Are they going to end up? You think that they'll ultimately end up having to rename them, or you think
they're going to rebrand? Yeah, they're going to rebrand. They're going to slap a new sign up real quickly, and they're going to keep pushing.
Well, and I must say, I'm not privy to the contracts or agreements between them, or whether they have registered a foreign corporation or they set up a new corporate entity in Florida. All of those make a difference here in how this gets handled. And as I said, I don't know that an arbitrator in California can issue an order that has binding effect in Florida. This may have to be litigated in Florida.
Yeah.
Which just increases the length of time and the problems. And in the meantime, people are burying money in their backyards. So that this is how this game gets played. You look like you're poor as a church mouse, so when they come after you, you ain't got to hawk your wife's wedding ring.
Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, time will tell. We'll see who actually gets caught with their hand in the cookie jar, I guess, ultimately, then, right, Dale? As this saga continues.
Well, the problem, the big issue here is Cookies has name value across the entire country, probably internationally.
Yeah, I'd say internationally, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which gives them a great position to be in. Like, you sign an agreement, and you get to use our intellectual property, and it's got value to you, yet you bend us over and fuck us. No, we're not going to play this game with you. Okay? They should have had a baseball bat to these people's heads a long time ago. I'm privy to some of the stuff going on because my former law firm was representing Cookies and some of this stuff. So I know some of the inside scoop here. If you wait too long, it can be difficult to drag back the assets that were there when they were supposed to be paying you. It gets convoluted, and the lack of federal jurisdiction and federal illegality is just another confounding factor in all this, which may require New York have litigation, Colorado, Florida, wherever this is a problem, they may have to go institute litigation there.
That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Lawyers Full Employment Act is what this is.
Well, we got to make sure that the lawyers are paid, right? That's part of the Lawyer Full Employment Act, isn't it, Dale?
Well, I'm telling you, my time and my experience is my bread and butter.
Yep.
God damn it, pay my bill.
Speaking of
I'm an old man working still. Pay my bill.
Oh man, Dale. Speaking of time and efforts, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration, and he's represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet and nasty, but he is honest and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he will show you how you can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, it is your favorite Tio Loco. You can now find him at his own law office, at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Another heartwarming story about the DEA. Jenny Beth, you'll love this. My article comes out of Marijuana Moment. Ben Adlin wrote it yesterday. And the headline is DEA Museum Highlights Pen that Nixon used to sign Modern War on Drugs into law. When I got done vomiting a bit in my mouth, I figured, okay, this is one that we can talk about here. I was a junior in high school when Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substances Act back in 1970. He declared the war on drugs 6 months later or so in 71. And he also appointed Raymond Schafer to do a report and study on cannabis. And this was the first problem that Nixon had with respect to marijuana after signing this law, because Raymond Schafer said we should just decriminalize marijuana and focus on heroin, which is a message that we have been carrying forward in our industry ever since then. And if you go back to the 1940s, Mayor LaGuardia from New York was given permission to study marijuana by Harry Anslinger. He came up with the same opinion. Why are you fucking with people doing small transactions in marijuana? We got bigger drug problems out there. And the response from Anslinger was the same response we got from Nixon. Nixon lost his shit. He used terms like these goddamn Jew psychiatrists, okay? And we've got the recordings of that. We know what he had to say. And he wanted a report from Schafer that took the ass out of these hippies. Okay? Well, we also know from John Ehrlichman, who was inside the world of Nixon, that they put heroin in Schedule 1 because they wanted to go after the blacks, put marijuana in Schedule 1 because they wanted to go after the hippies and the anti-war protesters. And it just refuses to leave that status. And I don't think either one of those should be Schedule 1. When I was in the Navy, we still had the formula for what they call Brompton solution, which is cocaine and heroin. If you're dying, okay, who gives a shit if you're addicted? Let's give you whatever it takes to make you feel better. Okay? So when we take a look at the DEA, how it rolled out, in 71, Nixon declares war on drugs, which was nonsense because you know it's not a war you can win. We haven't won it today. In 72, the Schafer report comes out. In 73, by executive order, Nixon creates the DEA out of a couple of agencies, Federal Bureau of Narcotics and some others, and crams them into one entity. And marching orders were stay heavy-handed for weed. And that has not changed to this day. And if we move forward now, we've got the Trump administration. I don't know what they think they're going to do with the DEA. Because if there's a ham-fisted approach to one of these agencies, I'll obviously happen, smash the shit out of the DEA. Get them out of the cannabis business. They don't belong there at all. But these people just do not want to let go of cannabis being the downfall of Western society. And as Jenny Beth, you said earlier, it's low-hanging fruit. I mean, this is not smuggling fentanyl. I mean, people are growing weed all over California and shipping it all over the place. The highways are full of this. And when you catch them, a drug dog smells it, okay, you can make a bust and make a lot of headlines about it. Doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't even address the problem. Problem is, no one believes marijuana should be a Schedule I drug anymore, except these fanatics inside the law enforcement agencies, especially the DEA. We've gone well beyond that. They understand it's safer than alcohol. So why do we keep treating it like this? Okay. And this is not just the Democrats. This is Republicans too. If you're a freedom and law and order type of person, you look at this and go, you can't enforce these prohibitions. Why do we continue to do this? People are pissed off and sick and tired of having their friends and family members fuck with over weed. Stop it. But that doesn't fix the problem. Inside this agency, bureaucracy just wants to keep its power and its money coming. And going after people for weed is low-hanging fruit. And there are multiple ways that we should be studying this and not letting the University of Mississippi grow their goddamn government swag. Let's open it up to other people to bring in high-quality cannabis products and start researching them. Like, we're not afraid of this anymore. Let's find out what it does, how we protect individuals, society. What do we do with this? Let's stop it. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm going to throw this back at you guys for your discussions and comments.
Damn, man, the DEA museum, they're highlighting this pen. Was this an auto pen? Was this like the first auto pen?
No, it was Dick Nixon signing it like they used to hand pins out to people. Here,
Yeah.
I'll sign part of my name.
They still do.
Part of that. It's like, this is some great thing that happened. No, it's not.
Yeah.
War on drugs has been lost, and drugs are more plentiful and cheaper today than they've ever been. Yeah, we're going to pat ourselves in the back for winning the war on drugs. You're fucking deluded. Stop it.
I mean, sometimes, Dale, they put things in museums to remind people of what happened, so that way things don't happen again. Do you think that that's what the thing, or are they were actually really trying to highlight and trying to like grandstand and be like the war on drugs was such a fantastic thing?
Well, they're hurting their hands, giving themselves attaboys and pats on the back. And they really do not understand that the war on drugs has been a miserable failure. It hasn't worked. It's not going to work because you can't prohibit people's private conduct and expect them to just let you do that. Okay? There are some drugs we should put more attention into.
Like fentanyl.
I think we need to fentanyl is one. Meth. I mean, crank is horrible. Okay?
Yeah, crank is
heroin's still a problem out there. Coke is a problem, and now we've got other issues out there. I think that we should think more about what do we do with someone who's addicted to a substance rather than just letting them live in a tent on the sidewalk in San Francisco. We find a way to get them into treatment. Oh, it's fucking horrible.
It is.
I mean, I don't even want to go over there anymore. It smells like human shit and piss everywhere. And people are in stupors, walking, or they're not even walking. They're sitting there in a stupor full of fentanyl. Yeah. And like the more you try to help them, the worse it gets.
And the other shit that shit they call trank.
Oh, yeah.
That whole new one.
People are so incredibly self-destructive with drugs. And before Ronald Reagan emptied the insane asylums in California, people who are addicted to drugs, like, you're going to spend a little time with us, dude, and see if we can get you off of this. Yeah. Took all that away, and now you're free to do whatever you want to do with drugs, which, okay, but when you're stealing my copper wiring out of my house, and
your catalytic converter out of your car, right?
But yeah, it's like, I'm tired of this. No, if you can't stop committing, criminal acts because you're a drug addict, I think that society needs to look at that a little differently and just, you're just go out there and do this to yourself. No. Yeah. No, this is a problem for our society, and it's not going to be fixed by cops arresting people. That's not how it's going to work. It needs treatment, sometimes flash incarcerations. After going to prison and dealing with so many drug addicts in prison, at some point you grab them by the neck of the neck and say, we've been talking to you for a minute here. It's about time you sit in a corner. Let us, and if you don't keep this up, I'm going to whip your ass. Yeah. See, I'm a trad dad. It's like, I've been talking long enough. I'm going to whip your ass now because you ain't listening. And we need to figure this stuff out a little better.
Yeah. No, most definitely. I'm totally with you, Dale. This is it's something that has to change, and the fact that they say that all this drug use is like a victimless crime. I beg to argue that I don't necessarily fall under that under that mindset anymore at all, Dale, because the fact of the matter is a lot of these people have families and whatnot, and I say that their families are victims in all of this rampant drug use because they don't have they don't have their family member that they can relate to, rely on anymore, because now they've turned into this freaking zombie.
Yeah. Well, it's a vicious cycle. I've got some friends who are cops or retired cops.
Yeah.
And one of their family members is a meth addict. Okay. And mom, they got a little kid, and mom lives under a bridge in a tent here. So if we have to go talk to her, we know where she lives. And dad's in and out of prison. They got this little girl. She's just the sweetest thing. And the family's like, what do we can do? We're going to help raise this kid. But this kid is the victim of two parents who are drug addicts, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're so concerned about the drug addict. What about this kid? What do you tell this kid? And this family who's bailed this dumb shit out of jail more times. I mean, his brother's a fucking cop.
Yep.
And he has to process him through the jail because he can't stop using meth and going out and stealing shit and getting in trouble. Our approach to this is not working. And so if you keep doing the same thing over again, you're not getting the same, you expect the same results. It's insanity. We need a new approach to this, not to victimize people who are substance abusers. That's not my goal here. But just to, say, oh, have a nice day when they're shooting up heroin in the streets or fentanyl, it's not working. I think we need a new approach and a new mindset. I'm empathetic, but there's a lot of victims to this. Jason, as you well know, if you know anybody who's a drug addict, it's not just them, it's their families. And, meth, every cop knows that a meth head's going to come and break in your house and steal anything he can. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because they'll flat back and suck dick, whatever it takes to get their shit. And this is a bad public health and safety situation. Okay. And it's like we're walking around with blinders on. We just can't do anything to these folks. Well, I beg to differ. I'm sorry. We can, and I think we should, because I've seen a lot of people who kicked their habits and moved on to a better life. How do we encourage people to work on their addictive behaviors here, especially when they're so self-destructive and harmful to our society? I think we need to think a little more outside the box here.
Yeah. I feel you on that. Any final thoughts on this, Jenny Beth, before we go to commercial?
Nope.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess the one thing that we should always remind people is that drugs are bad. Drugs are bad.
They are.
Yes. You should learn that from the South Park teacher. Drugs are bad. Okay. Yeah, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Also, make sure you go into the description of this video and check out all of the sponsors that help make the show possible every day. And use the link and order yourself a case of Liberal Tears. 250 milligrams of caffeine in every can, 0 grams of sugar. And I promise you, no liberals were hurt or harmed in the making of this product. But you will get to troll them when you're drinking it in front of them.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. like that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door. And then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Lots going on. So Soham was supposed to join us today, you guys. I'm not sure exactly where he where he is or whatnot.
Well, it ain't here.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Probably an
Jenny Beth.
ATX.
Yeah, exactly. Probably in the ATX somewhere, off Cat and Off somewhere or something. Not sure. So I do have a story, but then I also I sent it over to Shaun. Shaun should be joining us in about 8 minutes. So I'm just going to go into what was going to be our fifth story of the day, and hopefully Shaun can get here after the commercial break and deliver that. And if not, I'll read that because I do have a happy story to end on today, Jenny Beth. I did find a happy story. Well, damn it,
I'm gonna miss it. I'll watch it.
All right, fair enough. Well, all right. Well, the credit union breaks ties with medical marijuana caregivers amid lack of state regulation, you guys. That's right. In a quote, they say, "We're up against the feds, so we want to make sure we're acting in compliance, and we aren't just grasping at straws in this gray area without the assistance that we need," they say. In an additional quote, "Now they're saying, okay, we'll go back to no banks. Just put your money in shoeboxes," said caregiver storefront owner Andrew Penegrill, who runs Evergreen Cannabis Company in Portland, Maine. Last week, Penegrill got an email from his bank, Seaport Credit Union, saying they would close his account on July 31st, according to that email obtained by 8 Investigates. The credit union is cutting ties with all medical marijuana caregiver storefronts. A caregiver storefront is smaller than a medical marijuana dispensary. They have different licensing requirements, but are otherwise regulated in the same manner. In that notice, Seaport President and CEO Kelsey Marquise wrote, "As banking regulatory expectations continue to evolve, we have carefully reassessed our risk exposure and concluded that this change is necessary to ensure ongoing compliance with federal and state expectations." Marijuana is still illegal at the federal level. So many national banks won't work with dispensaries, and local credit unions have been a lifeline for adult use and medical cannabis businesses alike. With few other options, Seaport could leave hundreds of small business owners without a financial institution. In a quote, "Seaport was one of the first banks to work with us, one of the first credit unions to work with us," said Penegrill, who's been banking with Seaport for roughly 11 years. "So it's definitely going to affect a lot of people. And where do we go next?" he asks. Adult use of cannabis businesses are required to file detailed reports that make it easy for regulators to track where the marijuana was grown and how much is being sold in an effort to prevent money laundering. And federal regulators expect medical marijuana shops to follow the same reporting requirements, but in Maine, they're not required to, which is putting credit unions in a difficult spot. In a quote, they say, "We're up against the feds," said Maine Credit Union League Vice President Joe Burke. "So we want to make sure we're acting in compliance, and we aren't just grasping at straws in this gray area without the assistance that we need," he says. After 8 Investigates reached out to Seaport, they asked the Maine Credit Union League to speak on their behalf, and Burke says the disparity between state and federal regulations is forcing financial institutions to drop clients that they want to work with. She thinks the state needs to step in and provide more regulation and oversight to help banks and caregivers and the Mainers who've come to rely on access to medical marijuana. In a quote, they say, "I think there certainly is hope that if we can get some changes implemented here and get some regulations in place, it would make things better and more feasible for financial institutions, credit unions, banks to serve medical caregivers," said Burke. Without that oversight, Burke, like Penegrill, worries that these businesses will be forced to turn to cash, and the safety and soundness of a cash-only business is something all Mainers should be worried about, said Burke. The Maine Office of Cannabis Policy has proposed legislation to bring medical marijuana regulations in line with the rules for adult use cannabis, but those bills failed in the state legislature. And in a quote, while other states such as Michigan and Colorado have regulated medical cannabis through legislation to comply with federal banking regulations, the Maine legislature has repeatedly rejected proposals that would align Maine's regulations with federal policy, said OCP spokesperson Alexis Sosi in an email on Tuesday. And meanwhile, the discrepancies don't stop at reporting requirements, as Aid Investigates has previously reported. Medical marijuana also isn't subject to the same testing requirements that adult use cannabis is, and the Maine legislature passes bills creating separate licensing system for oh wait, whoa, sorry, that's my last story. That's the fun story that you guys are gonna all have a good kick out of. But nonetheless, can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. These guys getting dropped by their credit unions, big spoils for their oils.
Welcome to the real world, folks.
Right?
How long have we been dealing with that?
Mm-hmm.
When they first started, all these FinCEN reports you had to do cost thousands of dollars a month, and the bank accounts were exorbitant, and paperwork was horrible. You had your own compliance person on board, as opposed to driving around with $100,000 in cash and people know where you are and getting knocked off. I mean, welcome to the world of cannabis.
100%.
Pretty much. I believe.
Well, and it's not going to get better until we solve this federal dilemma, because right now we're all looked at as money launderers. I mean, there's ways around it. If you file all these, FinCEN reports and you have everybody account for every nickel, and we'll let you put some money through and charge you $1,000 a month for the account, and 2%. Well, I mean, it was just ungodly. But part of the problem in our industry out here in California, especially, is that cash is much more difficult to transfer than going online and doing a transfer between accounts. That's how most business gets done. You show up, they go, okay, the manifest is great. All right, it's arrived. Now you pay for it, and it's done electronically, and no one's carrying cash.
Yep.
Carrying a lot of cash makes you a target. You can't carry guns in this industry, which people still do, but it just creates a whole lot of problems that are not just, it's illegal federally. There's a whole lot more than that. And this kumbaya, just, do me a solid and let me pay you later, that's killed this industry. They need to have banking that real time, when metrics shows it arrived at this place, the manifest matches up.
Yep.
Boom. Transfer the money and we're done. That's the ideal we should be in. We're not even close to that.
Not on our best day are we close to that, Dale.
No. Well, and money gets stolen. I mean, you know, Jason, I've had clients where you go, what happened to this money? Someone shows up at one of the owner's house because I'm going to store it in my safe. The next thing you know, the guy's living in the fucking Bahamas.
Yep.
And, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars is gone. Now what do you do?
Right.
Yeah. Out in the Canary Islands.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all seen it. I mean, the criminals, I don't consider people growing weed to be criminals.
Yeah.
But the people who will steal your weed, steal your money, lie to you, all that kind of shit, they're the criminals. And, we're not getting a lot of help from law enforcement. We're still considered to be soft crime. You ripped off a dispensary, it's soft crime. Incredible.
Any final thoughts on this, Jenny Beth, before we
Nope.
It's just sad. All these Mainers, they're losing their account. These caregivers, and these are smaller businesses. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. I don't even understand why they would want this license. They just operate and just, what I'm saying? Tell them to kick rocks. But whatever.
Well, because it's supposedly legal and people still don't want to do things illegal in large numbers. Those of us who are rule breakers and, not all that agreeable are not quite as, withheld by stepping across the line. Average person doesn't want to. They get a chance to be legal, fine. But then the next thing you know, everything in your world's gone because you can't operate.
Yep.
And now what do you do?
Exactly.
Go back to the black market.
Yep. Go back to the underground. Yep. You're right, Dale. And on that, we're going to go back to our commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And so she was coming back from court. Well, guys, it is. We got to make those adjustments. You guys are cutting me all off. People can't even see my hair right now.
Oh,
What just happened?
It's a Class B felony, right?
Yeah,
Be able
bro,
to see your...
exactly. Exactly.
Wait till it starts falling out. You won't care.
Yeah, but much appreciation to Elias and Kai. They are working hard to get this going, and they're working on doing a lot of changes to everything to help make it a better experience overall for you guys. So we do appreciate them for all the work, and you know what I'm saying. It is a big learning curve learning all of this software. And remembering to do everything of how we do what we do when we do over here. So do want to thank them for all their efforts. They are doing a great job so far. So you know what I mean. Do want to acknowledge that. But I'm just going to go into this story. Shaun's not with us yet. I guess Shaun should be here any minute. But man. And because I do want to end the show on a happy note, Dale. So I got to read this story now. You know what I mean? Because this story is not a happy story. And Dale, I'm wondering how they're even able to get away with this, Dale, because I'm very confused by this. Because Dallas area officers raid 3 licensed hemp distribution warehouses in an enforcement overreach, Dale. That's right. In a troubling action by law enforcement against the federally legal hemp industry, officers raided 3 licensed distribution warehouses in the Henry Hines district of Dallas. Monster, Frontline Wholesale, and Canify Distribution. All 3 companies distribute fully federal compliant hemp-derived products sold nationwide and verified by certificates of analysis and COAs from certified laboratories. And these products help thousands of Texans, including veterans, cancer patients, and individuals with chronic pain. Each product includes a QR code that links directly to its COA and a legally binding document signed by a DEA-registered ISO-accredited lab director confirming that the product meets the legal requirements of less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC. These tests follow validated scientific methods, and in a quote, Monster Distribution has complied with the law in every way, and they relied in good faith on licensed accredited labs to verify that the products meet all legal standards, said David Sergey. And David's been on the show, an attorney for Monster, and he says in a quote, this raid was not based on facts. It was based on political theater, and when law enforcement acts outside its authority to deprive businesses and individuals of their rights and property, it raises serious legal concerns. I would agree with that, David. The Texas Forensic Science Commission, the FSC, has repeatedly cautioned law enforcement and prosecutors about the limitations of certain lab methodologies used in cannabinoid testing, including their improper use of gas chromatography without derivation, which can convert non-psychoactive THCA into Delta-9 THC and produce misleading results. Despite these warnings, the state continues to build cases on questionable science, you guys. Man, oh man, I feel really bad for these guys because these guys definitely should not have been raided in any way whatsoever, Dale. And Brian Dombrowski, who is boots on the ground over there in Texas, says that Patrick is looking for headlines to push his agenda, and these releases keep biting him on the ass. So veto SB3, and we're almost there. And yes, we are hopefully almost there. Veto SB3. And Shaun is now joining us from the great state of Texas. Shaun, what do you have to say about all of this, Shaun? Welcome.
just happened to sign back in for a Texas story, I guess.
Yes. I just read the story that I was going to have you read.
Okay. Well, the gas chromatography thing is interesting. Without even hearing the story, I think I'm aware of what might have been discussed, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe during the legislative session, we actually discussed this and we brought it up to lawmakers a couple of times that the way of gas chromatography testing, the way of doing it, the way that law enforcement is doing it is essentially entrapment because, Dale can speak to this a little bit more.
I agree with this.
I'm not a lawyer. But the way that they're heating the product.
That's right. Giving it a false positive.
Exactly. Yeah. But here's my caution. Especially because I'm late because I just came from court. I'm only one. But a word of caution. They recently rewrote, I understand on the federal level, I believe also they're rewriting the rules and they're including THCA times 0.77 or something like that. So if they start doing that argument will no longer be valid. But I hear what we're saying. I understand the argument and I also believed it at first, would have agreed. But now if they're rewriting the way that they calculate THC overall and they're including the THCA times 0.77, then legally there's no argument. And I think everybody should be really, really careful right now. We saw, we've had people in different states with legal markets get raided for hemp. Or hemp, or they'll call it, whatever they're going to call it. I am a little bit worried. If I had a client here in Texas, I would advise them to really lock it up, make sure that they're following the rules and being diligent, because now that the law has passed, it hasn't passed. My bad, guys. We still have a few days and there's still an opportunity for a veto, but do I think Abbott will veto this? I don't. I'll be very honest, and I hate being that person in the room. I want to encourage everyone to keep reaching out to Governor Abbott to veto it, but he still wins if he doesn't sign. He doesn't get blamed for signing it, and he also isn't responsible for making it a law, but it will still become a law. And I think that's where they're leaning, and I want all of my farmers out there to be very, very, very careful, because I do believe the DEA will start increasing raids before September.
Hold on. DEA. This was all locals. This was no DEA that was involved in this raid.
I think I heard more recently that someone just got raided by the DEA. Also.
Yeah, but we don't know that. We can't confirm that. Yeah. That's all hearsay.
I think so. Maybe not that story, but everyone be careful out there, because state and feds, they're looking for everyone.
And a lot of people, well, I don't believe that the DEA is involved in that unless that location they're tying it to some other type of large scale out of state distribution in regards with other drugs, which always is definitely is a possibility. But as far as like your average hemp store, you're not going to get visited by the DEA.
It depends on if they're going to call it hemp or if they're going to call it marijuana.
But the laws are what they are today.
Exactly. Yeah.
If they roll in and if they got a search warrant based upon false information, there's a problem right there. Okay? And if they took this based upon a false set of facts given to a judge and they ruin this product, and I'm a pretty aggressive litigator. I don't believe in talking to people. I believe in smacking them right in the mouth. It's all right. We're going to sue you, and perhaps in federal court, because Abbott, I don't know what he's going to do, but Lieutenant Dan is the one behind this. He's given the backbone to these local idiots to go out and do shit like this. And my experience is that they got to pull a boot out of their ass. They think twice about it, do it the next time. And we still have this spending preclusion against marijuana if it's medical. And I don't know how that fits into this, because hemp is not supposed to be marijuana, but they're trying to make it marijuana that's medical. Can the DOJ spend money to go prosecute this stuff? It's just more convoluted. But I would not just sit back and let them do this. I would drag them in front of a judge. Yeah. And I'd be thinking about a federal judge and say, these people lied in their search warrant application. We want them spanked. We want this stopped, and we want our shit back.
Exactly.
We want monetary sanctions against these people. See if you can send something. This is like the Dan Lundgren fight we had here in California 30 years ago. If you just try to talk to these folks, they are emboldened to do what they want to do until they got to remove a boot out of their ass. And I think that's about time that someone put a boot up Lieutenant Dan's ass.
Yeah.
Made him stop this stuff.
Yeah.
That's fair. The only thing is, I just don't know that many operators who have the resources to just litigate for years. And a lot of people are going to get out litigated.
Well, that is the problem when you go to court. It costs money. It's hard to find decent litigators who will donate their time. It's not a winning strategy. But if they keep this up, there may be grounds for a class action against them if they're not going to stop stuff like this. But when you're attacked, now you've got to defend yourself. You've got to have attorneys. They come take your shit, and you think you're going to just ask for it back and they're going to give it to you. No, that's not going to happen. You've got to go in and get a judge to issue an order that stop this and give them their shit back.
Yeah. I just want everyone to be careful out there. If you're gonna cowboy, but also be aware it's Texas.
Yeehaw. Yeah, there's a lot of tumbleweed. There's lots of tumbleweed out there. You know,
and Governor Abbott has no problem calling the military on us. Be clear.
Yeah.
Also, much love to California. After all of the protests and everything, I know I give you guys a lot of help, but I will say over the past week or so and on other days, I just much love to Cali for stepping up and showing out and showing America what America's really all about: freedom of speech and the People's Assembly.
And destroying.
And these products are not drugs like fentanyl and coke and heroin.
Exactly.
And to put this kind of energy into this, I mean, these are calculated to try and pull the rug out from people, make them understand that we'll come after. You've got all your COAs, everything's tight, T's crossed, I's dotted. Still, they come in, do this kind of stuff. That's why, if there's a case where you need to smack them right back in the mouth, this might be one of them to get them to back away a little bit and see how much they really want to fight about this. Because the hemp industry is not a problem like fentanyl or drunk driving. Or, I mean, you can just list the ones that are health and safety problems for the individual users and for society. And these hemp products are just not that. Why are our panties in such a goddamn knot over this stuff?
I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that I don't want to be that, I feel like the canary in the coal mine. I don't want to be that naysayer, but I really think this is all posturing for federal reschedule, and then they get to lock you up if you aren't if you're not medically licensed and you're not part of the big boy, whatever the
First of all, no one
is.
that's licensed is going to be able to get licensed under Schedule 3 because none of these people are ever going to qualify for a DEA license. So let's just start with that.
That's the truth.
I think that's the reality.
I think that's the target outcome that they're trying to reach, and they're gonna slow bleed until they get there.
I don't know.
And by making an example out of people who can't out litigate them instead of the ones who do have millions, then they can instill a lot of fear in mom and pops. It's about showing the legacy, traditional or black market, whichever one. It's about showing them what the warning is.
Yeah, but they can't stop this. See, that's the insanity. And I've told this to Democrats and Republican lawmakers like, you dumbasses, do you understand? People want weed. And if you don't give them weed, they're going to get it one way or another. And you go out with these, these headline grabbing actions. Okay. And semi trucks are pulling around you and taking it to New York. Okay. It's like, can you guys understand? Why do you pass a goddamn law you cannot enforce? And there's like, I don't, well, but you're doing it. These laws cannot be enforced. And I tell you again, if you took every cop in the country and put them on to marijuana enforcement, he still couldn't do it. And real crime would just run rampant. Okay? When do we wake people up to this reality that the trap will win every time? So why don't we beat the trap at their own game and legalize the shit out of this, collect decent tax money on it and make it so cheap the black market won't do it. If they can't make money, they're going to stop. And that's the reality. You're not going to have, you may have a couple of, moonshiners who want to have their own TV show, but the people that are balling in the black market, they're going to stop if they can't make money. That's how that world works. And it's like the Wharton School of Business should be, teaching the DEA this shit. Stop it.
When has the government ever been good at business?
No. Hey,
or common sense?
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah. And I hear you in enforceability, but I often have to bring in this question. This came up today actually with the attorneys that I was speaking with while I was at Travis County. There was a judge apparently who's had a ton of cases appealed because the judge was breaking the law. Enforceability only works if we actually practice the law as we've written it and structured it in the United States, and there's too much. I think what it really is indicative of, and this is the beauty of the cannabis industry, is that it shows us on a magnified level all the places where we could do better, all the little cracks in our legal system, in our medical system, in our finance system. It shows you, it amplifies and shows you, much like cannabinoids in your brain, they magnify your experience, That's just good old Mary Jane doing her job.
Yep.
The judges, the prosecutors, the clerks, the bailiffs, all these people play a part in how the law gets enforced. And if they don't arrest you, it's going to stop there. If they won't prosecute you, or the judge will, let you on your own personal recognizance go, and you're facing a misdemeanor soaking wet, it changes the dynamics of all this stuff. But on this other side, if you have cops who will arrest you, prosecutors who will prosecute you, judges allow them to get away with that kind of shit, and people have to give up because the average person cannot afford to fight a system like that.
Exactly. No, I'm with you, Dale. It's unfortunate. And shout out to the C Word who just threw in a super chat who says, Herba Oakland this Friday for hash lovers. So make sure you check that out if you're in Oakland and you love some hash, you know what I'm saying. But I did promise a final happy story for the end, you know what I mean, for the end, you guys. I think Shaun, I think you're gonna probably like this the best, realistically.
Let's do it.
Yes.
It's a surprise for me. I haven't seen our lineup today.
Yes. Oh man, that's 74 works perfect, guys. Yes, perfect. Oh man. Here we go, you guys. Here we go. Because a Maine legislature passes a bill creating separate licensing system for sun-grown marijuana with significantly lower fees, you guys. That's great news for the sun growers out there in the great state of Maine. A bill to establish a distinct regulatory structure for sun-grown marijuana with lower costs has passed both chambers of the Maine legislature and is now on its way to Governor Janet Mills for consideration. The legislation was approved by the Senate in a 20-14 vote after clearing the House 110-35. The measure defines sun-grown cultivation and sun-grown cultivator under state law, applying to those who grow marijuana primarily using natural sunlight and limited artificial lighting. The bill creates a separate licensing framework for outdoor cultivators, including significantly lower fees. For example, a Tier 4 outdoor cultivation license would cost $15,000 annually, half the cost of an equivalent indoor operation. And under the proposed law, sun-grown caregivers would be allowed to grow up to 150 mature plants or use up to 2,500 square feet of canopy each year, expanding the current limits. Additional provisions include updated security requirements for cultivation facilities and a grace period for new employees awaiting ID cards approval, and the elimination of yeast and mold testing requirements for adult use marijuana. Supporters say the measure promotes sustainability, lowers barriers for small growers, and reflects Maine's agricultural roots. If signed into law, it would mark a significant shift in how the state regulates outdoor marijuana cultivation, and it would make Maine one of the only states with a designated license for sun-grown cannabis growers. I think this is fantastic news for the sun growers, and I think California needs to take a page out of Maine's playbook on this, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
unusual to see a distinction like that written for the legislature, but when you look at environmental reasons and the energy savings and the fact that if you're sun growing, you're only going to have so many harvests, you're not going to be turning plants like you would if you were under lights in a facility. It makes sense, actually. Like, if you're only going to do one crop a year, if you're doing it that way and you're planting in the spring and harvesting in the fall, why, they should lower the barrier there. And then smaller farmers, this is good. This is good for small farmers. Great for the caregivers. Love to hear them getting more plants. It does also put it into perspective, like how limited the plant counts are just as they are.
I think this is fantastic news. California, I think, needs to adopt something like this. This would be a great, this was something, and I think they should call it maybe something like the Humboldt or Emerald Triangle Revitalization Act, Dale. Something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, we tried to do Appalachians, and that didn't really catch on very well because the industry's shrinking out here. I mean, I'm all in favor of promoting, outdoor sun grown, but because of the way our laws have been enforced, we have a indoor grow, and a lot of the awards are being won by indoor grows, not because it's the best way to grow weed, the cheapest way, but we just got used to it because when they're enforcing helicopters, you grow inside a building.
Yep.
We get to the point where we don't have any more of these restrictions on where you can have retail stores and things like that. California, I mean, we open the market up. At some point, growing in a building is not going to be economically viable unless you have a specialty market like they do with, Lafroig or some sort of single malt scotch. Most of it's going to be grown outside, and it's going to be dirt cheap, and it'll change the dynamics of everything. We're not there yet, though. And in California, our bigger problem is local control, local governments that can say no, because they are a problem in this state. And the cost of these licenses and things like that and our excessive, excise tax, those are huge problems being faced right now as our industry is shrinking as we speak.
Oh, yeah, there they go, guys.
I'm also looking forward. I heard Maine, I remember a few episodes ago, people wanted to know where outside of Cali there was something good. And I've heard some pretty good things about Maine. So the more you can cheaply grow, your cannabis next to your basil and tomatoes, and we get some of that companion planting into this, and we start looking at the agriculture, the actual biodiversity of how we can really grow good flower, not just testing and chasing numbers and chasing THC content. And even though we know that's not the only factor in what makes good flower, the better. So it's a good step in the right direction. Good stuff.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
I can't wait to go to a Maine food forest where you can just there's food, there's weed, it's everything you want.
It's called the Consumption Lounge, Shaun. Come on out here. I can take you to one.
I want to get outside. I don't want to be in a dispo.
You're not. They have plenty of outdoor seating at these places. Yeah, I don't know where you came up with that idea.
Why not?
They have live music sometimes too at some of these places. Yeah.
Too clinical.
At the same time, Dale, if you just sing in your head, that's some live music also.
Well, but in our family, we have bands. My son owns a recording studio, and we promote music. And I was just talking with an old friend of mine who's building a stage outside of his bar and pizza parlor, and he wants to put on music. And we used to go to concerts, and we just smoke weed there, and it made the experience much better. I'd like to promote music festivals, and have people be allowed to consume cannabis there.
Well, you know what, Dale? This ties in perfectly with one of our main stories yesterday, Dale, because you know what happened? I don't know if you got to see yesterday's episode, but Josh from Raw just pulled High Times out of receivership So congratulations to Josh and the whole Raw team on doing that. And they're saying that they're going to bring the High Times competitions back, and they're going to bring the magazine back into print, and all of this different stuff. And we're going to see what happens with that. We're going to definitely closely monitor that and see. And of course, we wish them all the success with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I was wondering who was going to end up buying it, if anyone. And I think it's in the right hands, actually. I think he's the right personality to bring back High Times.
I'm just glad to see someone that loves cannabis that has it and has a passion for cannabis, not just some, you know what I'm saying, corporate whatever dude, that corporate bro that's just like, oh yeah, bro, we can make a ton of money with this. This is a great idea.
The heart of cannabis culture for so long.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see it come back, because when they started legalizing, a lot of the old culture just sort of fell to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see that come back, because we used to have music festivals.
Yeah.
Okay. Where people, you bring your own weed and smoke there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that be promoted more in a legal way, so that you could have your brands there, and you're out in the middle of a football stadium listening to music. Who gives a shit if you're burning one?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Who cares?
I totally agree. You know what I'm saying? I'm with you all the way on, Dale. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Elias and Kai. Did I get that right today? Elias and Kai, son of a bitch. Elias and Kai. Sorry, guys. I'm getting there. Out there in the metaverse somewhere. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we're off, you guys.